Hey YouTube, welcome back to part two. Last video we had, I'd completed all the base coats on the model, been layering up the boots, the skin and leather detail. This time we're going to finish all the highlights on the leather and the metal, paint some team colours on the armour and work on the hair. So, team colours I've chosen to do are that of the Fire Mountain Gutbusters. Games Workshop recipe for this is a base of Jacaro orange and then a shade of Fugan orange and highlight up with Beast of Gore flesh. So now in true Robbo style, I don't have those paints, so I'm going to use a Vallejo Orange Fire. It's similar. It's a game color paint, so lots of pigment, very bright and pretty opaque. As per usual, I added a touch of water to help it paint it on smooth. You can still see that even though it's good opacity, it's still struggling to cover the lead belcher. If you saw the previous video, you'll know that I changed my mind on the armor and should have gone with a different base coat really. A couple of coats still does give me the coverage I'm looking for. I'm not too worried about full coverage in the middle part of the shoulder. Gutbuster's colours are orange with a white stripe, so I'm still going to have to paint that white stripe over. Before doing that, however, I want to add some depth to the orange. You can do that with a glaze or a thin down contrast, yeah, to give you some depth around the edges and in the shadows. I do decide to go a bit off piste and use some the original Citadel ink. Now, this stuff is 35 years old, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to pan out. Initially, I'm quite pleased. It certainly has a real vibrancy about it. It's got a nice shine, and it's definitely given the depth that I was looking for. While that's drying, I decided to do some final highlights on the leather detail. For this, I'm using some Steel Legion drab from Citadel. You saw the previous video, I used a variety of colours in a glaze consistency ranging from dark to light to create texture to the leather. This highlights more opaque and it finishes it off nicely. Yeah, a lot of this was trial and error, but I'm really pleased with the result of how this leather's come out. Just a few spots highlighted with German camo beige and we're done. With the ink dry, I'm a little bit more concerned about the glossy finish on the armour though. I want to tidy things back up, give some areas of the highlight to where light would have been shining from above. So I'll go back to the orange fire, thin it down and start to layer up some of those areas where the light would hit it from above. Um, Tops of the raised areas, exposed parts of the gauntlet. I did add a touch of Avalon Sunset just to lighten it so we could have a bit of variation there in the colour. Next we can move on to paint the stripe. I'm going to use Corax White. It's a Citadel base paint, so it has good coverage. Even on the first coat you can see here it's actually covering it quite well. It's a off white, it's kind of greyish white, so I actually then highlight with some Vallejo white, and you can see that the model's really started to take shape now. We've still got the hair to do, some highlights on the metal edges of the armour, and then there's the studs on the leather straps and gloves that need doing. Now with the hair, I really want to make this a focal point of the model. Gonna use the orange fire again and yeah, water it down and layer up, gradually building up the colour. So I mentioned previously it's a technique that's executed really well by a Scottish artist I follow, Cujo. Now straight up, it if I can get it to pop even as fraction as good as this guy, then I will be well pleased. Um, yeah, as we get higher up the hair, closer to the edge, I'm adding in a bit of Avalon's Sunset to the mix to lighten it up. Also, add a bit of interest, give a variation to the colour. I want it to blend rather than looking like stripes of colour. So um, I'm painting the individual strands, or trying to paint the individual strands of hair, and varying the length to it. So some of the lighter strands I'm going pretty much right down to the bottom, and some of the darker strands I'm coming up higher than others. So varying some of the different ones, just blending it in a bit. Now once that's done, there's a few dots of white on the tips of the hair, just to try and make it really stand out and give that bit of reflecting light. I'm not entirely sure it turned out exactly how I planned, but yeah, I mean, I learned so much practicing their technique. I think I'm going to leave it there for now, so I don't want to tinker too much. The final piece will be to highlight the metal. Um, for this, I'm going to use the Vallejo Model Air Steel. Um, on the tip of this spike, I'm just going to dry brush the tip. Then with a detail brush, I'm going to work my way around the model. Yeah, slowly picking out all the studs and neatly catching the edges of the metal pieces. Some metallic paints can be quite thick. I think because they have like metal flecks in them for the, to make them shiny and things like that. So this model paint, I don't know, I think it's because maybe it's designed for airbrush use. It seems quite thin. It's easy to use and picks the edges out nicely. So um, yeah, I think these final small touches to the detail are what really makes such a difference overall. Can really change the look of the model. So if you're going to take your time anywhere, then yeah, this is probably where you get most bang for your buck. With that done, I'm pretty pleased with the result. I learned so much doing this model. Some things like the layering and the blending I'll take forward onto the next models to practice and improve. Other learnings, I do different next time. So such as the planning and the use of the inks. But they're all things that I can take forward. So overall, I'm happy with the result. There are still some things, as I say, that I'd want to improve on. The hair wasn't quite as I'd hoped, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, you can join me next time, and we can see how that progresses together. See the improvements, and build on it from there. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again. Cheers.